Hi, good afternoon. For those who don't know me, I'm Anthony. I'm a sterile service manager at the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Harlow. So Harlow, we're based around 90 miles from here, about 20 miles from Stansted Airport, or slightly less than that, 15 miles from Stansted Airport. We're a small hospital with 13 operating theatres, and our average trays per year is around 35,000 trays per year. So that's the sort of size of we are. So I'm going to talk to you today about returning to reusables for plastic or stainless steels. So why am I doing this? So you're probably thinking I'm an environmentalist. Here we go, some person with a green campaign wanting to push a green agenda. That's not me. And an example of this is my favourite sport is Formula One. And at most weekends between March and November, or at least one weekend a month, I'm either at Brands Hatch or I'm at Silverstone, and you'll find me hopefully picking up a Ferrari. It's probably the closest I'll ever get to a Ferrari on my wages, but that's the thing I'm doing. So I'm definitely not a green, consider myself as a green person. But I did launch COP26 a few years back, and there was an emphasis on reduction in plastics. It was claimed that 15% of the carbon emissions were due to the production in plastics. So I thought to myself, well, what can I do? Yes, I can reuse my plastic bag. When I go shopping, save 20p, every little helps. But I wanted to do more. But what? So I started to think the seed was planted. And then I received a phone call from the rep who we buy our reusable plastics from. So we started talking about my family, my friends, and also about the latest Formula One race. Like I say, I enjoy talking about Formula One. After about 5 minutes, I'm starting to think, well, what's he here? He hasn't phoned me up to find out how the latest F1 race went or whatever. What's he talking about? What does he want? So he says, well, I don't know if you know, but there's been an increase in fuel costs, travel costs, and I'm going to have to put up your prices of your disposables. And I was thinking, oh, here we go again. So okay, my usual is, okay, thank you very much. Well, this year I've been told I need to save some money. So unfortunately, that doesn't quite match where we are. I'm going to have a look around, and we may have to move suppliers. So that's my usual response to reps when they tell me their prices are going up. But I actually wanted to do something. But what? So I started looking around, and I did find in the Journal of the Royal Society of Medicine that healthcare is responsible for 4.4% of global greenhouse gases, is estimated. And in England, only England, 10% of carbon emissions are down to medical equipment. So again, this got me thinking, what can I do? There must be something. So we had a couple of options. I could do absolutely nothing, or I could return to reusables. So 20 years ago, yes, I know it's hard to believe, I have been around in sterile services for around 20 years. I don't look that old, I know. We had reusable. So could I go to stainless steel? Could I go to reusable plastics, back to where we were? So I did speak to theatres. I thought it was really important to get theatres on board because they're the ones who are going to probably complain the most. They're the ones I deal with the most. So I spoke to them. I sort of said, can we do a couple of trials? And they said, yes, no problem. And the feedback I got, and like I say, it's just anecdotal feedback, they preferred the reusable plastic. They did feel that the metal was a bit too heavy, a bit heavier on the sets. It was a bit too shiny with the lights in theatres, and when they put stuff in, it was a bit clinky. However, so we decided to go with the plastic option, reusable plastic, plus it was cheaper for us when we looked at it. So we had a way to go, but what do I need to consider? So firstly, how much plastic am I using? I mean, I consider myself a small hospital. Like I say, we're slightly different to some hospitals. We pack our, we still do, we pack our disposables in with the trays when we wrap them. So in 1 year, we used roughly 27,000 receivers, 32,000 galley pots, and around 6,000 compartmented tray. So like I say, a small hospital was using 65,000 single-use bits of plastic yearly, and that was incinerated, so it wasn't even put to the ground, it was just burnt. So again, going back to when I was in Plymouth all those years ago, I spoke to someone in the department. I said, so obviously, why did we go from reusable to single use. And they said to me it was because of washer capacity. We just don't have the washer capacity. Now, whenever anyone says something to me like that, I don't believe a word they say, so I started questioning it. So I looked at our washers and our capacity. So our department, we're open from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. Each standard wash is around 40 to 45 minutes, so by the time you unload it, load it, you're looking at 1 wash per hour. So technically, each washer can do 16 washes per day if they're being maximised. So then I looked at actual data on the machine of how many washes they were doing. So the average was 10 washes per day. So basically I had 6 washes per washer, 3 per day. So the extra 780 wash loads per year or 15 per week, I thought, well, actually, we do have capacity. So I dispelled that myth. I said, then they said, well, it's cheaper to go with disposable. So I looked at the single-use costs. So I looked at how much we were spending. We spent approximately $10,000 a year on the disposable products. There was an incinerations cost, so it's about 3,500 kilos per year. Incineration is around £2,000. It's probably gone up by now since I started this presentation. Disposable cardboard, relatively small cost, of £60. So cost per annum for the hospital, not necessarily all in our department, was roughly 12,000 per year. So how does that compare to reusable? So to reuse those and reprocess those, as I said, it was an extra 750 washes per year. So an extra 105 litres of detergent. Trust me, my detergent manager was very impressed when I was telling him I was going to be using an extra 105 litres of detergent. The water consumption was 11,000 litres. So the total spend just to reprocess them was approximately £1,800. Of course, there were some setup costs. So the one-off cost where we had to buy special racks for the washers, we needed to buy the equipment. So the total one-off cost for the first year was approximately £6,000. So in 6 months, this project would pay for itself. So not only are we being green, but we're also saving money, potentially. So I presented the idea in our decontamination meeting with the decon lead. They liked it. We presented it to the trust, and this is where I found out that we had the NHS Green Net Zero target by 2035. I then went to speak to the theatres because it's important to speak to the theatres, got them on board from the beginning, and that's when I found out I had a green champion. I never knew there was a green champion in theatres. I spoke to Carly, and she was fantastic. They really were encouraged about this idea and thought, yes, it's such a simple idea, let's give it a go. So then we spoke to each of the speciality team leaders. So we went for it. So of course we had some issues. There's issues with everything. So we had a major issue was Labour Ward returning the kidney dishes full. I don't know why they couldn't just empty them in the sluices or rinse them out, but they were coming out full. I was initially worried about the washer capacity. So what we did was we stored them in the washroom, in the billy, and at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the next day, depending on time, either John or Dominic, who was sat there, would come along, clean them, and put them through. The problem with that was they would come in, again, if you're in the previous, it was getting dried on, it was getting stuck, it was dry, it was getting a funny smell in the wash, so it wasn't the best. So how did we resolve these issues? We went through Datex. So every time Labour sent a kidney dish full of blood and placenta, we Datexed it. It reduced them. We set up a dedicated rack in the wash so that when they used it, we put it straight on, and when the rack was full, we just loaded the washer. So if you're considering to do this, what considerations do you need to make? Yes, you need to consider your washer capacity. You may have to consider yourself or consider your revalidation of your autoclaves at the end when it comes to an annual. Speak to your AED about that. And we were lucky because when our autoclaves were validated, they were validated with plastics in there. So therefore, I didn't feel the need to have to get the autoclaves validated because they were done in a performance qualification test when we set up the machines. But if any concerns, speak with your AED. And obviously, we had concerns about the tray weights, because it may increase your weight to the tray and you've got the manual handling. So the overall benefits were 65,000 single-use bits of plastic being less being used, which is about 3,500 kilos. Waste disposal costs, the packaging, the CO impacted. So we worked out we saved nearly 11 tonnes of CO2, and we saved around £10,000 per year. But what does all that mean? So a useful way to visualise is 1 tonne of CO2 using graphics like these from the carbon visuals. 1 unit is equal to 1 cube of 8 metres by metre filled at 15 degrees Celsius at sea level. So for example, the 11 tonnes which we saved is equivalent to 2.4 petrol-driven cars for a year, or 28,000 miles, energy for 2.1 homes, 25 barrels of oil being consumed, or nearly 1.3 million 1.3 smartphones being charged. So to offset this, you would need to plant 13 acres of UK forest in 1 year to offset that carbon. And we've saved that. So the final benefit was I was nominated for an award. And I thought, oh, it might be for a green initiative or something like that. No, it was for innovation. So apparently going back something 20 years ago was classified as innovation. And that's all. Thank you.